Welcome to Canadian Justice. I'm Christine Van Gyn, and today we're talking about a piece of Alberta legislation, changes to their provincial Bill of Rights. The Alberta Bill of Rights was first introduced over 50 years ago by Premier Peter Lougheed. It's a statutory Bill of Rights, so not a constitutional document, and it's meant to protect the people of Alberta from intrusions into their rights. Now, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has proposed some updates to that Bill of Rights, and it expands in four areas. It deals with freedom of expression, not exclusively freedom of speech. It's designed to protect Albertans against unwanted medical care, though there are some exceptions. And it deals with expropriation of property as well as firearms ownership. It may make it more difficult for governments to appropriate property. Now, here today to discuss this and the proposed changes are two experts, political science associate professor Laurie Williams and assistant law professor Lorain Hardcastle. Thank you both so much for joining me today. I want to get your reactions first to my description of what the Bill of Rights amendments are. It's sort of in those four areas: firearms, medical care, expropriation, and freedom of expression. Lorain, I'll start with you. What would you add to my description to sort of flesh out that framework?
I think that in addition to talking about the different areas of rights that are going to be expanded, the Bill of Rights also will talk about the limitations on those rights. So reasonable limits, and the language that they're using is in a free and democratic Alberta. So that invites courts to maybe think about what an Alberta specific version of that looks like. Another thing that I think is interesting here is that a lot of these rights, the way they're worded, is rather broad and vague, and so a lot of the work is really going to be done in the courts. And so, in some ways, what the case law that's going to evolve over the coming years will be even more interesting than the amendments themselves.
So, Laurie, why do you think the Alberta government has introduced these amendments? What's behind all this?
Well, it's largely because of pressure being brought by the right flank of the United Conservative Party. The former Wild Rose Party sorts of folks are involved in this, and there are now three different groups that claim representation of them. One of them is Take Back Alberta, which people are already familiar with. Another is what's called the Black Hat Gang, and they in particular put together proposed amendments to the Bill of Rights that were sort of taken up or adopted or recommended by the board of directors. The third group is called the 1905 Committee, presumably referring to Alberta being formed in 1905. And we've actually seen reactions from all three of those groups, basically saying that it falls short of what they're looking for. And I think affirms what most of us, when we look at this, wonder is this more than just simply symbolic?
Yeah, what's your take on that, Lorian? Do you think that this is actually going to have a meaningful impact on how Canadians' rights will be protected? I mean, I think of Canada's Bill of Rights, a piece of federal statutory rights guarantee, and how it's not often relied on. It only applies to federal statutes. It's not really, doesn't seem to be used that much. So, what type of impact do you think this will have?
I think the impact is going to be fairly minimal. A lot of what's in here are rights that we already have in other forms anyway. So, for example, some of the rights around freedom from medical coercion, I think that we would already say that that's implied in the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, that you can't be subject to unwanted medical treatment. And then we also have common law cases in battery, which say that people have the right to be free from unwanted medical coercion. So I think that a lot of what's happening here is symbolic. It is a gesture to the members of the party who were dissatisfied with what went on during COVID-19.
Yeah, I think that that's something I want to get into in the next segment when we have more time, because the medical question is really interesting to me. I mean, certainly it seems like this is introduced because the members of those different parts of the party that Lori described, and I think a lot of members of the public were dissatisfied with the protections of the common law on medical choice. So we'll be able to get into that in the next segment, but we do have to go to break. When we come back, we're going to expand on that whole conversation.